Rent was due, and Lena Mae Jenkins' meager tips wouldn't cover it. Her eyes fell on a crisp dollar bill, abandoned near a humming washing machine. A single dollar could buy a meal, but Lena knew it wasn't hers. Later that morning, Lena found a thick leather wallet, bulging with cash, tucked under a folding table. Her own rent loomed heavy, but without a second thought, she placed it securely behind the counter, ready to wait for its rightful owner. "Still playing Good Samaritan, Lena?" Mr. Henderson, a regular, scoffed, shaking his head. "Someone else would just take it. You're too honest for your own good, girl." Lena just offered a tight, quiet smile, refusing to be drawn into his cynicism. Mid-morning brought old Mrs. Gable, struggling with the digital display of a new washing machine. Lena, without being asked, patiently guided her gnarled hands, explaining each button with a gentle voice. "Thank you, dear," Mrs. Gable murmured, pressing a warm, foil-wrapped pastry into Lena's hand. "You always make things a little brighter." Lena's tired eyes crinkled in a genuine smile. These small moments were her anchor. In the cramped back office, Lena thumbed through a worn folder of red-stamped bills. Eviction notices, overdue utilities. The stack grew higher each week. Through the thin walls, she heard snippets of conversation. Poor Lena, too soft for this neighborhood. Always helping everyone but herself, that girl. She'll lose everything. A cold knot tightened in Lena's stomach. How long can I keep this up? Asterisk, she wondered, her reflection in the dusty mirror showing a flicker of fear. Late afternoon, the bell above the door jingled. A shabbily dressed man, his clothes frayed and face shadowed, shuffled in. He looked disoriented, clutching a crumpled, official-looking letter. He approached Lena, his voice a low mumble. "Excuse me, miss. I can't quite make out these words. Could you read this for me?" Lena met his gaze, a flicker of suspicion, but mostly empathy in her eyes. Lena Mae Jenkins took the crumpled envelope from Elias Vance. Its official-looking typeface contrasted sharply with the man's disheveled appearance. "Just a utility bill, sir," she said softly, her voice calm as she read through the lines. "Looks like it's for electricity. Due in 5 days." Elias nodded slowly, his gaze unusually sharp, his eyes tracking Lena's face as she articulated each word. He mumbled a quiet, "Thank you," a low, gravelly sound, then retreated to his usual corner booth, watching Lena with an unnerving stillness. His silence carried more weight than any chatter in the room. Later that evening, a frantic Mr. Jackson burst through the laundromat doors, eyes wide with panic. "My wallet! I left my wallet!" he gasped, scanning the floor. Lena stepped from behind the counter, the thick leather wallet in her hand. "Looking for this, Mr. Jackson?" she asked, a small, knowing smile on her face. Relief washed over him as he clutched it. "Oh, Lena, thank you. There's a reward, please," he insisted, fumbling for bills. She gently pushed his hand away. "Just glad you got it back, sir." From his booth, Elias Vance watched, a shadow against the humming machines, his presence a silent, unwavering judgment. The next day, during the laundromat's midday rush, Elias Vance reappeared at the counter. He held another crumpled letter, his eyes downcast. "Got another one, ma'am." "Can't make sense of it." Lena sighed, almost imperceptibly, a flicker of weariness crossing her face. A woman waiting for change scoffed, loud enough for Lena to hear. "Still playing nursemaid, Lena. He's just taking advantage." Lena ignored the comment, taking the letter. "All right, sir, let's see what this says." She unfolded the paper, her patience a thin, stretched thread she refused to let snap. Late that night, the laundromat empty, save for the rhythmic tumble of a forgotten dryer, Lena scrubbed the folding tables. The skeptical customer's words echoed in her mind, taking advantage. A wave of fatigue washed over her, but then she pictured her mother's face, etched in the framed photo on her nightstand. "Integrity is your richest garment, Lena Mae," her mother used to say. Lena straightened, her shoulders squaring. The judgment of others might sting, but it would not define her. She would hold true to the lessons of her past, no matter the cost. The harsh morning light did little to soften the stark white paper taped to Lena Mae Jenkins's apartment door. Her name, Lena Mae Jenkins, was printed clearly beneath a bold, red-stamped word, Eviction. Her breath hitched. The world seemed to tilt, the cheap wallpaper in her cramped entryway blurring. Her hands, usually so steady, trembled as she reached out, tracing the cold, official letters. Despair, cold and sharp, pierced through the exhaustion that usually dulled her senses. Time, she realized with a sickening lurch, was finally running out. Later, in the chilly quiet of the laundromat, Lena clutched the receiver of the payphone, her voice a thin, desperate whisper. "Please, Mr. Davies, just a few more days. I promise I'll have it." On the other end, her landlord's voice was a flat, unfeeling drone, a brick wall of policy and procedure. No exceptions. Rules were rules. Lena pressed her eyes shut, a wave of helplessness washing over her. Her options were dwindling, her pleas falling on deaf ears. The cold, sterile hum of the empty laundromat seemed to mock her vulnerability. Lena moved through the rows of washing machines, her shoulders slumped, wiping down surfaces with a rag she barely saw. Each movement was heavy, burdened by the eviction notice still burning in her mind. From the farthest booth, Elias Vance watched. He sat perfectly still, a shadow among the shadows, his expression unreadable. No crumpled letter was offered today, no mumbled request for help. He simply observed, his gaze following Lena's every weary step, a silent, unsettling presence in her escalating storm. Dusk bled across the grimy street as Lena stepped outside, a heavy trash bag in hand. Two neighbors, Mrs. Perez and Mr. Miller, leaned against a flickering lamppost, their voices carrying on the damp air. "Told you she was too soft," Mrs. Perez muttered, shaking her head. Mr. Miller snorted. "Giving away free washes, helping every stray. Naivete, that's what it is. Rent don't get paid with good intentions." Lena froze, their words twisting like knives. She felt the injustice, the humiliation, but beneath it, a quiet defiance sparked. They could judge her, but they didn't know the strength of her resolve. Midday brought a brief, welcome respite. A young mother, her face etched with frustration, wrestled with a broken washing machine. Lena Mae, seeing her distress, didn't hesitate. She offered a full refund and a free wash on another unit, her voice soft and reassuring. "Don't you worry, honey. Happens to the best of us." The mother's genuine smile, a quick, grateful nod, and a heartfelt, "Thank you, Lena Mae," warmed Lena's weary heart, a small win in a day full of looming shadows. The lull was short-lived. Elias Vance, the illiterate man, reappeared, a thick, official-looking form clutched in his trembling hands. It was Lena's busiest hour. Machines whirred, dryers tumbled, and a line of impatient customers formed behind a huffing Mr. Henderson. "This here. It's just too much," Elias mumbled, pushing the dense document across the counter. Lena's shoulders slumped almost imperceptibly. Her eyes, already tired, scanned the complex jargon. She sighed, a barely audible puff of air, but her resolve remained. "All right, let's see what we've got here," she said, ignoring Mr. Henderson's loud, exasperated sigh from the back of the line. The laundromat's fluorescent lights hummed into the late night, long after the last customer had left and the doors were locked. Lena Mae, instead of heading home to her own mounting problems, remained. Spread across the counter, under the cold glow, was Elias's daunting form. She patiently read each section aloud, explaining terms, meticulously filling in blanks, her hand moving with a careful precision that belied her exhaustion. Elias sat opposite her, quiet as ever, his eyes tracking her every movement, a strange, unwavering intensity in his gaze that Lena, focused on the task, never noticed. He was watching more than just her hands. Finally, in the quiet solitude of her cramped apartment, Lena collapsed onto her worn mattress. Sleep, however, was a luxury her racing mind couldn't afford. The landlord's deadline echoed in her ears, louder than the city hum outside. Her gaze fell on a faded photograph tacked to her wall. A younger, hopeful Lena, beaming beside a sketch of a vibrant community center. A dream deferred, now seemingly crumbling beneath the weight of overdue bills and a cruel twist of fate. The thought of losing everything, including the very hope that kept her going, was a suffocating blanket in the dark. Lena Mae Jenkins arrived at the laundromat before dawn, the chill seeping into her worn coat. The air inside hummed with the stale scent of detergent and despair, As her fingers fumbled for the lock, she saw it, a crisp, white envelope taped starkly to the glass door. Stamped across it in bold, unforgiving red letters were 2 words: Final Notice. Her breath hitched. The world seemed to tilt, the flickering fluorescent lights of the laundromat blurring into a single, crushing defeat. Her last shift felt like a dream, or perhaps a nightmare. Lena moved through the aisles, her movements slow and deliberate, wiping down machines she knew intimately. Each swipe of her rag was a silent farewell. She packed the few personal items from behind the counter: a faded photo of her mother, her chipped coffee mug, a dog-eared paperback. From his usual booth in the far corner, Elias Vance watched her, his unreadable gaze fixed on her slumped shoulders. A flicker, almost imperceptible, passed through his eyes, a hint of empathy in the stoic mask he wore. Mid-morning, the inevitable arrived. A stern-faced representative of the laundromat owner stepped through the door, flanked by a sheriff's deputy, their expressions cold and official. Lena stood by the counter, her hands clasped, a quiet resignation settling over her. The representative, a man with thin lips and a sharper suit than Lena had ever owned, began to affix closed notices to the machines. "Per the terms of your lease agreement, Ms. Jenkins," he droned, "operations are hereby ceased." Inside, unseen by the officials, Elias Vance remained in his booth, his gaze unwavering. Just as the deputy reached for the main entrance to padlock it, a sleek, black SUV glided to a silent stop at the curb outside. Its dark, polished surface gleamed, a stark contrast to the grimy street and the faded storefront. The sudden halt of such a luxurious vehicle in their forgotten corner of the neighborhood caused everyone to pause. The owner's representative squinted, the deputy stiffened, and even Lena looked up, a flicker of confusion breaking through her despair. Who could possibly be arriving now? The sleek black SUV, an anomaly on the grimy street, hissed to a stop. Its tinted windows slid down silently, then the door swung open. From the vehicle stepped a man, not the hunched, disheveled figure Lena had come to know, but a presence. Impeccably dressed in a tailored suit that seemed to absorb the muted morning light, his posture was straight, his movements deliberate. The air itself seemed to stiffen. The laundromat owner's representative and the sheriff's deputy, who moments before had been barking orders, froze mid-sentence, their faces slack with confusion. All eyes were on him. The man walked forward, each step resonating through the suddenly hushed laundromat. He moved past the stunned officials as if they were invisible, his gaze fixed, unwavering, on Lena Mae Jenkins. Lena stood behind the counter, her hands still clutching the eviction notice. Her breath caught in her throat, shallow and ragged. As the man drew closer, a jolt of recognition, sharp and disorienting, shot through her. It was him. The illiterate man, but utterly transformed. Her eyes widened, a mix of disbelief and a dawning, terrifying understanding. The room was silent, save for the frantic pounding of her own heart. He stopped directly across from Lena, placing his hands flat on the counter. His voice, now clear and resonant, filled the space. "Lena Mae Jenkins," he began. "My name is Elias Vance. I'm a writer, an author, and I've spent the last few weeks observing you." Gasps rippled through the small crowd. The officials exchanged bewildered glances. Elias continued, his eyes never leaving Lena's. "I've been working on an article about genuine character, about integrity in places where it's often overlooked. I needed to see if kindness could truly endure, even when it cost everything. So I presented myself as someone in need, someone who couldn't read." Elias Vance reached into his suit jacket, pulling out a crisp, signed document. "Lena," he announced, his voice carrying a profound authority, "I've not only finished that article, but I've secured you a book deal. Your story, your unwavering spirit deserves to be heard." He slid the papers across the counter. "And as for this laundromat, and your dreams of a community center, I'm backing them. Every step of the way." Lena stared at the contract, tears blurring her vision. The murmurs from the onlookers shifted from shock to awe. Her life, once on the brink of ruin, was irrevocably, magnificently changed. The laundromat owner's representative, a portly man named Mr. Finch, fumbled with the eviction notices he'd just posted, his face a sudden, vivid red. The sheriff's deputy, who moments ago had stood with an air of official finality, now shifted uncomfortably, his gaze darting between Elias Vance's commanding presence and the papers in his hand. Mr. Vance, Finch stammered, tearing down the closed sign with frantic haste. We had no idea. A misunderstanding entirely. Elias simply raised a hand. A calm, firm gesture that silenced them both more effectively than any shouted command. The power had irrevocably shifted. The murmurs that had filled the laundromat moments before now died to a shamed hush. Mr. Henderson, who had so often scoffed at Lena's generosity, found his eyes fixed on his worn shoes. Mrs. Perez, who'd whispered about Lena's naivete, now mumbled something that sounded like an apology, though Lena couldn't quite make out the words. Lena Mae stood tall, her posture regal despite the exhaustion, a composed smile gracing her lips. She offered a gentle nod, not of triumph but of quiet dignity, acknowledging their presence without gloating. Their judgment, once a heavy burden, now crumbled under the weight of her vindication. Later that evening, in the quiet sanctuary of her now secure apartment, Lena Mae sat at her small, rickety table. A sleek, new laptop, a gift from Elias, glowed softly before her. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, a sense of boundless possibility tingling through her. She was to write her story, her truth. Her voice, long confined to quiet acts of kindness, was now a powerful instrument. My voice matters, she thought, a surge of empowerment warming her chest. The words wouldn't come easily, but they would come, precise and true, just like every action that had led her here. Days later, the laundromat buzzed with a newfound vibrancy. The fluorescent lights still hummed, but they seemed brighter, cleaner. Lena, now the proud owner, moved among the gleaming machines, a confident smile replacing her usual weariness. Customers chatted freely, their laughter echoing off the tiled walls. Elias Vance entered, not in rags, but in a smart, casual suit, his presence still commanding but softened by a knowing warmth. He met Lena's eyes across the bustling room, and they exchanged a silent, shared smile, a recognition of integrity, intellect, and the profound change one honest heart could bring to a community. The bright lights of the national television studio were a world away from the flickering fluorescence of the laundromat. Lena Mae Jenkins sat poised, her book, The Unseen Threads, displayed prominently on the coffee table beside her. She spoke with a calm eloquence that belied her humble beginnings, discussing her journey, her unwavering belief in integrity and the power of community. The TV host, captivated, nodded along. Lena's voice, clear and resonant, carried across the airwaves, a beacon of inspiration for countless viewers who had once felt unseen. She was no longer just a cashier. She was a national voice for intellectual justice. Weeks later, Lena found herself in a high-rise office, the city sprawling beneath Elias Vance's opulent view. The contrast between this lavish space and the worn laundromat where they'd first met was stark, yet their connection remained. She thanked him sincerely, her gaze meeting his with a deep, shared understanding. Elias, no longer the disheveled stranger, smiled, a genuine warmth in his eyes. He spoke of his pride in her, not just for the book, but for the ripple effect her story was creating. Their bond, forged in a test of character, was now one of mutual respect and admiration. The old, neglected building in her neighborhood now buzzed with life. Children's laughter echoed through the brightly painted halls, and elderly residents gathered for community programs. Lena Mae, her name proudly displayed on a banner above the entrance, watched the scene with a joyful heart. Her long-held dream of a community center had not just materialized, it thrived. She moved among the happy faces, offering a comforting word here, a guiding hand there, embodying the very spirit of generosity and communal support that had saved her. It was a testament to kindness, intellect, and the power of one person's unwavering spirit. In her new, sunlit office at the laundromat, Lena paused. She looked at a framed copy of Elias's original article, the one that had first unveiled her story to the world. A gentle smile touched her lips, a simple act of honesty, a quiet commitment to doing what was right. It had changed everything. It had proven that true worth was seen, that integrity was a powerful force, and that intellect, when paired with kindness, could overcome the loudest cynics and the direst circumstances. The laundromat hummed softly around her, a reminder of where she began, and the incredible journey her unwavering heart had brought her. The scent of freshly laundered clothes still filled Lena Mae Jenkins's thriving laundromat, even after school hours. A teenager named Mia, her backpack slung low, folded a stack of brightly colored shirts. As she reached for a stray sock, a quarter glinted on the floor. Mia's eyes flickered to the coin, then to the empty counter where Lena usually sat. She hesitated, a small, internal battle playing out on her face. Then, with a decisive nod, she walked over to Lena, who was organizing a shelf of detergent. "Ms. Jenkins? Someone dropped this." Lena took the coin, a warm smile spreading across her face. "Thank you, Mia. That's very honest of you." Mia beamed, a quiet pride blooming in her chest. Weeks later, in the neighborhood's bustling coffee shop, Mr. Henderson and Mrs. Perez sat across from each other. A local newspaper spread between them. Elias Vance's article, titled "The Unseen Heartbeat of the City," featured a prominent photo of Lena Mae Jenkins. Mr. Henderson cleared his throat, adjusting his glasses. "Well, I'll be a book deal," he says. Mrs. Perez nodded slowly, her gaze fixed on Lena's picture. "All that talk we had about her being too soft." Mr. Henderson shifted, a faint blush creeping up his neck. "Never thought it'd turn out like this. Guess you never really know a person's worth." Their whispers were muted, tinged with a regret that felt heavier than their old cynicism. In the newly renovated office at the back of the laundromat, Lena Mae listened patiently as a young employee, David, recounted a difficult customer interaction involving a misplaced change. "It just feels wrong, Ms. Jenkins," David confessed, wringing his hands. Lena leaned forward, her expression gentle but firm. "David, doing the right thing isn't always easy. Sometimes it costs you, but it always pays you back in ways you can't measure. I know that firsthand." She shared a brief anecdote from her own journey, not to boast, but to illustrate. David's earnest expression softened, a new understanding dawning in his eyes. He nodded, feeling a quiet strength settle within him. Lena sat in the planning room of her burgeoning community center. A new set of blueprints spread across the table. On the large screen before her, Elias Vance's face appeared, his smile warm and encouraging. "Lena, the second location looks promising. We're already seeing an outpouring of support." Lena's posture was confident, her eyes alight with purpose. "The need is great, Elias. And the lessons learned here about integrity and perseverance, they're universal." They discussed funding, programming, and potential outreach, Lena's intellectual capacity shining as she strategized. Their shared vision for a broader impact, extending far beyond the laundromat, was a testament to the enduring power of her quiet virtue. The night air was cool, but Lena Mae Jenkins felt a warmth spreading through her as she stepped outside the laundromat. She looked up, a soft smile gracing her lips. The old, flickering neon sign, a tired beacon of her past struggles, was gone. In its place, a brand-new, brightly lit sign glowed, its modern script proclaiming Lena's Legacy Laundromat. It was more than just a business name. It was a testament to every quiet act of integrity, every struggle overcome. This was her triumph, visible for all to see. Later, in the quiet solitude of her newly designed office within the laundromat, Lena sipped coffee from her old, chipped mug, the same mug she'd held countless nights behind the counter, wrestling with bills and doubts. Its familiar weight in her hand brought a wave of nostalgia, not for the hardship, but for the lessons learned. She remembered the gnawing worry, the cynical whispers, the desperate pleas. Now, there was a quiet contentment, a peace that hummed softly, much like the machines in the main room. Early the next morning, as the first rays of dawn filtered through the large windows, Lena opened the cash register. Inside, a handful of loose change lay scattered, forgotten by a late-night customer. For a fleeting moment, her mind drifted to the days when every coin counted, when such a small sum could have eased a fraction of her burden. But instead of sweeping it into the till, Lena Mae gently scooped up the coins and placed them into a small, clear jar labeled "Lost and Found." It was a silent promise to herself, a quiet reaffirmation that no matter how much her life had changed, no matter the fame or the fortune, her core remained untouched. It was the principle that had saved her, the unwavering belief that doing the right thing, even when no one was watching, was always its own reward. And in that small, simple gesture, the world saw the enduring power of a woman who chose integrity, not just once but always.